2024 is just around the corner, and what better way to end the year than to rank the best mice of 2023? I'm gonna go through the categories in this order right here. The first category I have is the best budget mouse. Not everybody wants to spend a lot on peripherals, they just need something that will perform well and is affordable. Obviously, with Chinese manufacturers making a ton of mice, there's quite some options to consider for this category, and my pick for the best budget mouse would be the VGN Dragonfly F1 Pro. Coming in at 50 bucks, this mouse definitely packs a punch with its versatile shape and solid build quality. The mouse doesn't creak or flex at all and is built like a tank. Coating is pretty good, it's not rubberized but it definitely grips well. I still would put grip tapes on it though. The mid hump goes really well with a relaxed claw, while the flatter sides make fingertipping super stable and comfortable. Clicks are crisp and super light. They're very spammable with little pre and post travel. The side buttons on this mouse is actually really nice, even comparable to the mice at $100 to $200 price point. The stock feet are quite controlled, so if you're already running a control pad, you might want to swap them out to something a little faster. It is 4K compatible, but you have to purchase the dongle separately, and regarding the 4K performance, I can't comment on that because my dongle never arrived. Some guy just randomly got my 4K receiver for the mouse, but it still plays really well at 1K. It's something that's nice to have, but not a necessity. Overall, this mouse definitely takes the cake for me in the budget mouse section. Honorable mention to the DynamoShock M3S Varun. It was 60 bucks, now it's down to 51. Comes with the 2K receiver in the box and is a close contender for this category. The coding and shape just isn't as good as the F1 Pro in my opinion, but if you have larger hands and prefer a back comp, this could be a better mouse for you. Next up, there's the most surprising mouse of the year. This category is dedicated to the mouse that looks like an average mouse but is low-key a top contender. Something that people might just overlook because of the specs. The mouse that I chose for this category is the Endgame Gear OP1WE, and this really is the definition of an underrated mouse this year. Nothing about this mouse seems special in any way. 59 grams, 3370 with 1K polling rate, and a so-called scaled down XM2 shape. The OP1WE is a hidden gem that excels with its god tier shape. This really isn't just a scaled down XM2 at all. It feels so different and way more mobile in hand due to the OP1 being flatter and a lot thinner. The stock feet are also very smooth. They're not slow like the VGN F1 Pro and glides well across different surfaces. Of course, because this is a endgame gear mouse, the coding is exceptional. Never felt like the mouse would fall out of my grip. The one issue that a lot of people had with this mouse was the weight of the clicks being too heavy, and I've actually adapted pretty well to it. At first, I did feel like using a little bit more force to click, but after a while I was adjusted to it and it didn't bother me too much. They do sell a lighter switch pack for you to swap them out, and it's very easy to do, but I think if you've used the Huanos from old Zowie mice before, you should be fine with these. Moving on, we got the best fingertip mouse. Fingertip shaped mouse is a weird one because technically the hump on the mouse doesn't matter as long as the mouse is flat enough, so the weight, size and the clicks of the mouse are way more important when picking the best one. I think this mouse might be the most obvious one out of the entire list because I chose the final mouse Ultralight X. If availability and price were taken into account, I would 100% pick the WL Mouse Beast X, but because I'm only picking the best purely off of performance, the ULX edges it out simply from comfort. I also picked the ULX because I already gave my WL mouse to a mate who wanted to try the final mouse shape, but regardless, the slits on the WL mouse are just too big, especially near the back of the mouse where my pinky would be gripping onto. Several times I would need to readjust my grip because my pinky would just start slipping when my hands sweat. The ULX doesn't have this issue. I've been able to grip it really well and the clicks are so light, which is super good for fingertip since they don't have much contact on the mouse to begin with, so heavier clicks would feel even more heavy. The ultralight shape has always been really good because the sides are flat first of all, but it also doesn't drastically curve in or flare out like other mice on this list, and that makes it so much easier to fingertip regardless if you were to grip it really low or high up. The web app on this mouse is also one of the best, funnily enough, considering how shit Final Mouse have always been with the software, even as recent as their Starlight series. This app is really clean and easy to use. There's also no trivial problems when you update each firmware. I remember when I first got my Maya and updating the firmware, my mouse wouldn't show up on the software until I reinstalled it again. Speaking of the Lamsu Maya, this mouse wins the next section, which is the what a shame category. I was tempted to put the Razer Cobra in, but to be fair, we knew it was kinda dogshit when the specs were released, so I knew what I was getting into when I got it. But the Maya was so good both on paper and in hand, to the point that I was still swapping it in and using it today because of how much I loved it. However, my mouse has gotten worse since a couple of days ago in that video I made where I was squeezing it moderately, which I've only done a couple of times. My copy now creaks if I lightly squeeze it, not even close to the death gripping thing. The front sides of the mouse is still fine, but from the middle to the back, the moment I put a little force into it, it's creak village right here. And the scroll wheel also has creaking in half of the notches now, so that's great. My original Atlantis that I've had for a year and a bit now has no issues whatsoever in comparison, and by no means is this the worst mouse of 2023, far from it. I think the Maya is really nice. But coming from a company like Lamsu though that has a perfect track record of making high quality mice and the mouse getting everything right but misses the basics like build quality, disappointing might be an exaggerated but somewhat right to describe the Maya. The final category we have is the best mouse of the year 2023. This mouse is what I consider to be the easiest to pick, the safest to pick, if you buy it you won't regret it thing. If I had to pick only one mouse for a year, I would pick this mouse. The best mouse of the year, in my opinion, is the Ninjutsu Sora 4K. The Sora 4K is a slightly smaller version of the XM2 shape, but what separates this from the XM2 is the sides, since they're flatter, so not only do you get that full palm support for an aggressive and relaxed claw, which is the most comfortable shape by the way for that, you also can fingertip this mouse since it's smaller. The clicks on this mouse are also god tier, being as light as the ULX clicks, and the coding is on par with Endgame Gear's coding. Regardless of what grip I use, whether I'm using my main fingertip grip or when I'm tired and I switch it into a claw, I feel super locked in with a ton of maneuverability. The stock feet on this mouse is super good. It's a balanced glide which is not too fast or too controlled, so it will work well with whatever pad you're using at the moment. It also comes with the 4K receiver. Obviously this doesn't mean that it's better than the XM2WE, but if it's the best mouse of 2023, it has to have the best features even if it's a want and not a need. The 4K works well with no stutters whatsoever. This is the mouse that I would pick without hesitation for my top mouse. And that's it for the list.